Okay, so for this week, I read the Chinese Higher Education Horizon Report from 2017, and they talked about four developments in educational technology that they expect to be adopted in the next 2 to 3 years. The first one being augmented and virtual reality. So we've talked a lot about this, I know, because it's a trend everywhere. I think for students, it'd be great to have VR capabilities because they can learn things in a not classroom environment so they can experience more field things and have more experience beyond paper and pencil applications. The next thing they talked about was learning analytics and adaptive learning. And I know we talked about this last time because I know you mentioned a program that measures TEKS, and we kind of talked about how adaptive learning would be cool for students to measure what TEKS they're working on and then how they're doing so they could breeze through the ones they're good at and then have more practice with the ones they don't know as well. And I know this would have a good application in training in industry because employees could not waste all their time learning things they already know, and it would be a personalized training experience. The third thing they talked about was quantified self, which the way I understood it is I personally wear a Fitbit, and that would be a quantified version of myself because it's always measuring the steps I take, my heartbeat, how active I am. It reminds me of to drink water and to walk around. One of the things they talked about, though, was how there's a smart necklace that records the sounds of people eating and then matches the sounds to a catalog of food, which I think is really weird. But it would be interesting to apply these types of technologies for students and employees. And I think for employees, it'd be cool because it can be exhausting mentally to be at your computer all the time. So if someone's wearing a smart technology, it could remind them to walk around and take a break, and can also measure their stress levels through their heartbeat. And that would be important data for the company to have, and they could analyze it to see how they can improve employees' health and emotional fitness. And then the last thing they talked about is virtual and remote laboratories, which for students, I think, especially in science, would be really cool because they could use these virtual laboratories to experiment with chemicals that otherwise would be really dangerous. So they could experience things in a very low-risk way. I could also see this being utilized for training, so allowing employees in high-risk environments to use these technologies. Like pilots would be cool, so you could do simulations instead of building an aircraft, and there'd be less of a chance of them getting hurt. So which one did you read?
Okay, so I really liked how you how you brought up all these points, and all of these points, from my understanding, are to empower students and educators to provide learning experiments, not experience, learning environments that help improve teaching and learning, and also to promote student achievement. The Horizon report that I focused on was the 2019 Higher Education edition. And within this edition, it focuses on 4 different topics across 3 different trends. And those trends are divided by long-term, midterm, and short-term. And within the first long-term trend, it focuses on rethinking how institutions work. And this is stating that since education is becoming more diverse, not only demographically, but technologically as well, institutions need to think about how to meet the academic and social needs of all students because every student learns differently. And like you said, we're trying to evolve from paper-based learning to incorporating student-centered learning environments that provide students with experiences that connect disciplines while thinking on how to capitalize those existing resources, meaning we need to provide students with experiences that are going to connect them to the workforce, that's going to help promote their success for the future. And this leads us to the midterm trends. And this trend is divided into two categories. The first one is advancing cultures of innovations. And this trend is focused on higher education and how it should be serving institutions that provide students with experiences in order to prepare them for the workforce, and also provide students with the chances to learn skills beyond conventional disciplinary knowledge, and to focus on workforce preparedness. So it's really connecting those learning environments and those experiences that students have learned in the classroom and connecting them to their professional fields, like, say, for example, let's say teaching. All the disciplinary knowledge that students would acquire in school about teaching, that should help connect them to become a teacher in the future. And it's just engaging students and providing those experiences that are meaningful. And the second point within this trend is growing focus on measuring learning. So this is about preparing institutions for more data-centered approaches to teach and for teaching and learning in order to promote growth and achievement. So what I was talking about in the last video, using data systems such as DMAC in order to meet students where they are and to find those gaps within instruction so that educators and teachers can help promote student success by helping them grow through those gaps. And the last trend is called short-term trends, and this is basically redesigning the learning spaces in which students are learning in. So the learning spaces, such as classrooms and libraries, need to facilitate and reflect the learning that is actually going on in the classroom. So if we are moving towards a more, I guess, action-based learning type environment, then the learning space needs to reflect that in order to better serve our students and our teachers. So it states that designing and evaluating spaces that facilitate active learning and collaboration that accommodate and reflect learning environments in the classrooms. One thing that I've noticed within all of the trends is that we're trying to promote active learning in order to make education relevant and meaningful, so students are not only prepared for the workforce, but they can connect their learning to different types of environments, which I think is very important, and it speaks to all the ISTE standards as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you brought up a lot of good points, and that we're really changing the way that higher education is structured. And I know with the ISTE standards, we really talked about having a variety of technologies to solve problems in new ways and making sure that educators are aware of those opportunities to improve their teaching and learning through collaboration. And I think all of the ISTE standards for this were really covered.
Absolutely, I agree as well.